Edward Wilmot Blyden and Bishop Henry McNeill Turner, who are also contemporaries of Martin Delaney, who were instrumental in what became known as the Back to Africa movement in the 1800s. Edward Wilmot Blyden spent the last couple of decades of his life living in West Africa. He was born in St. Thomas. He lived in the United States of America, travels to West Africa, and lives there between what became known as Liberia, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone. Yeah, he's a journalist, he's an activist, and much of what develops in terms of Black nationalist, African nationalist, Pan-Afrikanist ideology. It was penned by Edward Wilmot Blyden. He's studying the culture, the politics of African people, publishing it in various different publications and books, newspapers, and Africans around the world are reading it and being educated. And he's credited with the coining of phrases like African personality, and pushed the African repatriation as well as the African self-government mission on the continent of Africa. Bishop Henry McNeill Turner founds the International Migration Society in between 1895 and 1896. He initiates and transports about 500 Africans in America to Liberia. He also made some key connections with Africans in South Africa because he is a bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and they link up with the Ethiopian Church in South Africa, and they perform a merger, and the people, members of the church, are going back and forth and studying with each other, learning from each other in that kind of way. Now, it would be true to say that in the late 1800s, a lot of these efforts and these travelings slowed down, principally because of the Berlin Conference, 1884 to 1885, which basically, I've already mentioned the Scramble for Africa. Well, the Berlin Conference was the formalization of the Scramble for Africa. All these European nations that are trying to colonize African land are bucking up each other, and they're going to war with each other. And so they form a diplomatic solution, which was the Berlin Conference. And the nations that were present at the Berlin Conference are France, Belgium, Portugal, Spain, Italy, Germany, and the United Kingdom of Great Britain, of course. And there were others who were there, like the Ottoman Empire and the United States of America, who had less of a role, but were very much present because they were all gathering to agree, what the policies were going to be in relation to Mama Africa. And so this event, they say, really formalized the colonial process and the Scramble for Africa. So it became increasingly difficult, because of the wars that these Europeans were creating, with other African people, for Africans to be able to travel to Mama Africa, because obviously it's now under European rule, completely under European rule. But that did not dead the thing completely, because whether traveling to the continent or not, Africans in the diaspora remain connected, to brothers and sisters on the continent. A good example of that is the correspondence, a long-standing correspondence between Baba John Edward Bruce in the United States of America and J.E. Casely Hayford, in Ghana, who is instrumental in the founding of the Fante Confederation, which was pushing for self-rule, as well as the Federation of West Africa in general, among a number of other activists and organizations. This interest in returning to Mama Africa and repatriating manifested also in a lot of the scholarship of the time, all right? So even the Africans who didn't themselves go to Mama Africa began to write about African history. So we know about people like Carter G. Woodson. We know about people like Arthur Schomburg. But I want to highlight two names, that are not very often highlighted in this regard, One is a woman by the name of Anna Julia Cooper, who is the author of Slavery and the French and Haitian Revolutionists, And this is important because all of the people that I've mentioned so far were very inspired by the Haitian Revolution. In fact, many of the early attempts at African nationhood in the Americas, were talking about migrating to Haiti or anywhere in the Americas whereby Africans were the majority, So African nationhood was not confined to the African continent, But this book by Anna Julia Cooper is an example of the fact that Africans were seeing themselves as linked to each other wherever they were in the diaspora. And Haiti, yeah, as an independent state that had fought for its independence and defeated the British, the French, and the Spanish, yeah, was seen as a bastion, an example to follow in terms of African nationhood. The second book is by a sister by the name of Drusilla Dungy Houston, and the book is called Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Kushite Empire, yeah? So Africans are now delving deep, yeah, into the origin of humanity and their own history and seeing themselves as a part of that history. And so that documentation is also fueling this identification with Africa, Africanness, and repatriation. Obviously, we have the Garvey movement, yeah, founded in UNIA ACL, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and African Communities League, founded in 1914. I'm not going to go too much into this one. The reason being because I got to do a whole separate video on this one, because another popular asked question is, why didn't Marcus Garvey go to Africa? So we're going to save the in-depth analysis, yeah, on this question for a future video. But it is necessary to note that many Garveyites traveled to the African continent. In fact, the UNIA ACL had a program here of trying to establish a headquarters on the African continent. And this related to Sierra Leone, it related to Liberia, and they even had a program of trying to get back into African hands the so-called colonies, yeah, that were lost to Germany after the First World War, more properly referred to as the first mass European colonial war. In that regard, yeah. So they had various different programs. In 1920s, they sent a number of delegations to Liberia with the prospect of establishing the headquarters in Liberia. And in 1924, that particular program was sabotaged. Again, I'll go into that in a future video. But even though the program itself was sabotaged, yeah, because they had the program to migrate a few thousand families, yeah, to Liberia. But a number of the people that were a part of the program did actually migrate to Liberia, repatriate to Liberia, and stayed there. Our brothers and sisters of the UNIA traveled to Nigeria, Ethiopia, yeah. And so many Garveyites traveled to the African continent, either to visit or to live during the 1920s and 30s. And we can even develop on that in terms of people that were part of the Garvey movement but formed their own organizations, like Mama Mitty Modlina Gordon, yeah. The Peace Movement of Ethiopia had a program for repatriation that required them to be petitioning the American government in the 1930s, yeah. Not a completely successful attempt, but an attempt nonetheless. One of the people that is instrumental, yeah, to the Garveyite legacy is Queen Mama Amy Ashwood Garvey, yeah. She traveled to West Africa in 1946. She lived in Liberia for a number of years, and she was also able to trace her ancestry because her grandmother had educated her somewhat about the fact that they were Ashanti, and so she was able to visit the Asante Hene in Ghana. She was able to confirm, yeah, the stories that her grandmother had told her, and we reclaimed the name. They reclaimed an African name, which was Akuswa Bwahima. Akuswa Bwahima, yeah? And so we honor Queen Mama Amy Ashwood Garvey for that example also. Moving on, in 1948, His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I of Ethiopia signs a document, yeah, in Ethiopia that grants land, yeah, to Africans in the diaspora. And this was in part a reward for the fact that Africans in the diaspora had rallied around to support Ethiopia when Italy invaded in the 1930s, yeah. This land becomes known as Shashamane, and over the years, many brothers and sisters, thousands of Africans, particularly of the Rastafari faith, have traveled to either live in Shashamane or visit Shashamane regularly. So that's another repatriation endeavor that actually manifested itself. A little known fact of the 1960s is the number of Africans who traveled to Mama Africa to live, yeah, to live. Why? Because in 1957, Ghana became independent and began the process of sweeping the independence energy across the African continent. Obviously, the Osaja for Kwame Nkrumah was central because he was openly a Pan-Africanist and a uniter of African people. And so many traveled to Ghana to live. Some didn't go to live though. Some just went to visit. And among the most notable of those was a man by the name of Omowale Malcolm X. In 1964, he done a tour of the African continent, during which he traveled to Nigeria, Ghana, Guinea, Sudan, Egypt, Ethiopia, Tanganyika, Senegal, Liberia, Algeria, and Morocco. He met with people like Osaja for Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Touré, who were heads of state, but he also met with grassroots activists, yeah, like Abdul Rahman Mohammed Babu of Tanzania. So Omowale Malcolm X comes back to the United States of America, yeah, to found the Organization of Afro-American Unity, and that is all about liberation of African people, a part of which is connecting Africans in the diaspora with Africans on the continent. Then we have Kwame Touré, yeah, who marries Mama Miriam Makeba in the United States of America, yeah, in the year 1968. In 1969, the two of them travel to Guinea, yeah. At this time, Kwame Nkrumah has been overthrown, yeah, since 1966 in a coup, yeah, sponsored by Britain and America and others in 1966 in Ghana. And so Kwame Nkrumah is in Guinea, operating as the co-president of the nation of Guinea alongside Sekou Touré. When Kwame Touré travels to Guinea, he's under the tutelage, yeah, of these two great men, noted Pan-Africanists, Kwame Nkrumah in particular. And the two of them, Mama Miriam Makeba and Kwame Touré, become like Pan-African ambassadors, yeah. They travel around the world spreading the good news of Pan-Afrikanism and African liberation through song and political organization. The Osaja for Kwame Nkrumah is trying to establish the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. And after the passing of Nkrumah in 1972, Kwame Touré becomes its key organizer, yeah? And he's establishing branches of the All-African People's Revolutionary Party in many countries on the African continent and in the African diaspora, including, yeah, right here, London, United Kingdom. Under the auspices of the All-African People's Revolutionary Party, a number, yeah, of its members also repatriate to the continent. Finally, yeah, for the historical analysis, and we're going to get some present-day, nowadays concerns, yeah, but in 1974, yeah, President Julius Nyerere of Tanzania puts on the 6th Pan-African Congress. A number of African people from the diaspora, yeah, travel to Tanzania from all over the continent, travel to Tanzania to take part in this conference, right? As a result, though, a number of Africans actually move, yeah, and migrate, yeah, to Tanzania because it becomes a central hub, yeah, for Pan-African activity, right? Not just for the diaspora, but for the continent itself. A number of African revolutionaries were being resourced and or educated in Tanzania. Many Rastafari brethren and sisters traveled to Tanzania, and Pan-African organizers in the UK, yeah, traveled to Tanzania. Some of them stayed. Some of them actually came back and formed new organizations that were connected to brothers and sisters on the continent as a result of that particular conference. All right, so that's the history, yeah, of the thing, yeah. So now we want to get to nowadays. Wagwan right here now.